Perfect. Okay, welcome back to the AI Talks episode 11 about conversational AI. We've taken a little break, but we are back. So great to be back. Thank you, Mr. Segerman, for being on today. Um, and today we're gonna talk about conversational AI agents. I think this is a very important topic to bring up. It is up and coming in
Mhm.
the world as we know it. And yeah, let's get right into it. I want to get some introductions out of the way. My name is Keshav. I'm your host of AI Talks. Super excited to get episode 11 underway. I have just graduated from college, and I'm still working with Gen-AIx as a marketing coordinator. And yeah,
Okay, hi Keshav. Pleasure to be here, and also just call me Alexander. Mr. Segerman is a bit too formal in that sense.
gotcha,
So,
Alexander.
Alexander, I'm the responsible partner manager at Enterprise Bot. Enterprise Bot is a conversational AI solution, and Enterprise Bot and also Gen-AIx have formed a partnership for the US to then take conversational AI, agentic AI into the market, and happy to be here on the podcast.
Awesome, perfect. As Alexander did say, yes, our companies are joined together. We have an agreement where we are merging our capabilities. I think this is a fantastic time for us being able to connect with you and then being able to get you on the podcast. So I do appreciate for that. Thank you so much.
No problem. My pleasure.
Perfect. So, starting off, what is conversational agentic AI? I think to address this, we need to, address the user so that people that don't know what it is, we got to explain what that is. So,
Mhm.
my first question for you would be to just like kind of, from like layman's terms, from like simple terms, what would you define conversational agentic AI as?
I would split the, let's say, conversational agentic AI into two areas. First of all, conversational, namely, how do I have an agent, a bot, let's say, a machine conversing with an end user? I always call it the last mile between the enterprise and the user. So basically, that is the stretch that we're talking about. That is the stretch for the conversational aspect to then say, how can I interact with the user between the end user, so basically the customer and the enterprise. That's one part, the conversation part. And then agentic or agentic AI part is then how do I act and also what can I do? What am I capable of doing? And as the name says, agentic, I can, let's say, simulate or be a virtual agent to then do something as part of the conversation. So I can get something done. And it's not only me or let's say the bot, the conversational bot speaking with the user, but then also being able to then execute something, get something done within the enterprise context. That is how I would, in let's say really high level layman's term, define conversational agentic AI.
Right. Okay. How would that be different from the traditional virtual assistants that we were seeing in the past?
If you look at the past, and let's say this whole conversational bot technology is about, let's say, plus minus 10 years old. In the beginning, it was very much scripted in the sense of I write exactly, or I expect exactly the user to then say something or write something, and then I can follow up, answer the question, and then the user then asks another question. So basically, it's very scripted, very let's call it like a binary tree questions A, B, C, D, and then I execute on them or answer them. That is where the bots started. And then the next step was, let's say, integrating large language models or Gen AI into the game. So basically, the bots became a bit more flexible in the sense of understanding what the user said and also being able to then formulate an answer. And then now the third step, this agentic topic, is the bot knows what can be done and also needs to be done. So basically, just as an example, the agentic AI knows that the company has a CRM system. Let's say maybe it's called SFTC, Salesforce.com. It has an inventory system, maybe that's SAP. It has maybe an HR system, Workday, and that is where the agentic AI knows these systems are there. And the agentic knows also what can I do, what can I find in these systems. And now the user is asking something, and then the agent knows exactly the user is asking me, let's say, for instance, an inventory question. Do you have these two PCs in stock? Yes or no? Then the agent knows exactly where to look for and get it, and potentially also then order it. So it is much more powerful and knows much more what it can do and becomes much more the, let's call it virtual employee or the virtual agent within the enterprise conversing with the end user. So basically that's the what I call the evolution between the traditional scripted bot, the LLM bot, and now the agentic AI.
Perfect. Okay. I think well, before I did this podcast, to be completely honest, I did I think my max understanding did go to the LLM bot and not to the agentic AI bot.
Mhm.
I don't know if people agree with this with me, and if you're watching this and you also think that we've gotten from pre-programmed responses like you said in the binary tree to then more personalized, more differentiated responses from these big LLMs, and now we're at a point, like you just said, we're at, you know, a virtual employee able to know the
Mhm.
processes of the company and being able to differentiate things and then also order and take action with possible solutions. So I think that that's just the big difference that we are talking about today, and I'm very excited to get into this.
And also maybe one thing to add,
Yeah,
the agentic AI, it's not necessarily that I have to tell them exactly what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. That's also the
right.
main difference. So it's not, let's say, scripted or orchestrated or whatever we call it, but it's more of independent and knows what needs to be done. So that is also then the difference. So agentic does not mean I have a flow, maybe low code, no code process or conversational flow, but just here, agent, these are the information that you can then access. These are maybe the process systems that you can then access and, let's say, quote unquote, do your magic.
Awesome. Perfect. This is a new age. We're just gonna give a task, and
Yeah.
then the agent's gonna go through everything. It's gonna think for us. It's gonna do it for us. I think that's incredible.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of things that go into it that people need to understand, which is privacy. I
Yeah.
think that's the number one. I mean, there's a couple. I'll give a top three if I could, but on that top three is privacy. We have a lot of compliancy issues, data privacy, cybersecurity. These are some very big issues that need to be resolved. And I do want to ask you, what are the top security concerns, in your opinion, with agentic AI systems in that
Yeah.
customer service niche?
In in my view, or in our view, as our as let's say enterprise bots. I mean, so we are a European company. We come out of Switzerland, so basically we're Swiss based. So basically, this whole thing around security is basically ingrained in our DNA. Because
Right.
if we talk about enterprise customers, so basically large scale customers, they always need and have to then keep their data private, because it is their intellectual property, it is maybe then personal data, etc., etc. You have also then various legislations. This might be GDPR, data privacy laws. You might have AI Act, let's say AI acts. And for instance, in Europe, you have the European AI Act. In the US, you have various AI acts on the governmental, but also then on the state level, or federal and state level. So, but all of them are saying the same thing. Bottom line is the AI has to be unbiased, reasonable, but also then has to keep the data private because just take as an example, you don't want to have a hospital having an agentic AI leak patient data onto the internet. I mean, we had that previously in various cases, and we still have that AI independent, but that is the main concern that the enterprise has to then
Right.
say the data has to stay internal. And also then the second aspect is everything around compliancy, because you have sometimes, let's say, regulated industries, financial services, healthcare, maybe governmental, that are then highly regulated. And there, this data also naturally stays or it needs to be compliant, governed, and also kept private. And those are then the main concerns that all of our customers have in the sense of how does this impact affect agentic AI?
Right. Right. Perfect. I think I agree with everything you say. And I want to also get into how, I mean, from that standpoint, from that general standpoint, I understand that. But I do want to get into more
Mhm.
like the nuance, like while I am conversating with this bot, how
Yep.
is that going to be in real time, right? While I'm conversating, how is that data going to be protected?
Yeah. I mean, you have various levels. I mean, actually, you have first of all the transportation level. Let's put it that way. So basically, me communicating over the internet via secure channels, HTTPS, or then also secured voice channels. So basically, that's more. Let's call it the transport layer that's there. And then the moment the conversation hits the enterprise, then it is then all the data needs to be a ring fenced in the sense of what's being used. If I use data internally, that's mostly or that's of no issue since the enterprises have their own security mechanisms, firewalls, and all that stuff. But then I previously mentioned the AI and also the LLM part. So these are typically then external services that are then being used. And between the platform, between the internal enterprise and then the external LLM, large language models, there you have the mechanisms in place and then say, okay, from a transport level, you have the encryption. You have then anonymization of personal data. So basically masking, for instance, social security numbers when you then access the large language model, masking maybe date of birth or addresses depending on the industry and also depending on the use case, what needs to be done to then ensure that this data stays internally within the enterprise. I access the large language model with anonymous data or masked data, and then on the way back, the data then gets unmasked, or also then the anonymization gets then reverted so that I can then really provide, let's say, the real life data back to the end user. And that is, or those are then most cases where then security privacy is then in place to then ensure that everything is, let's call it quote unquote, okay and also safe.
Right. Okay. So the masking occurs internally, then goes externally to the LLMs. They're seeing masked data. They're not seeing the actual data. Does that
Yeah.
infer with anything? Does that make it? Because I mean, even though it isn't the real data, it is masked. Does that mask
Mhm.
still enable the LLMs to be giving us the right answers, giving us the right solutions as well?
Definitely, because I mean, from our point of view, for the past 6 years, there has always been given the correct answer. So basically, we
Okay.
typically reach a 97, 98% accuracy with our end customers. Just due to the nature of AI, you will never get 100%
Okay.
accuracy. That's just due to the nature of the AI. But let's
Gotcha.
say it's 97, 98% is then there. Our customers have never complained. I'm sure that there are, let's call it theoretical edge cases that are there, but then up to now, I've never seen that in real life, in the real life examples. And our focus is always on the pragmatic approach and also the real life approach. And as mentioned, I'm sure that there are theoretical edge cases that potentially might be an issue.
Okay. That's super interesting. Okay. So we have the masking, it goes in. I think the fact that it's at 97, 98% is I think incredible.
Mhm.
That needs to, I mean, well, when it comes to using that for applications, it needs to be at that level to be considered usable, right?
Yeah.
But
And also maybe one add point because we always get the question in the sense of why isn't it 100%? Or what
yeah.
do I do with the residing 2% inaccuracy? Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Our question always back to the customer or to the prospect in that case is what happens if your employee gives a wrong answer? So
Hmm.
basically, since we're talking about virtual agents, virtual employees, um, real life employees probably make more mistakes than the virtual agent. How do I react to something or to a case where or a situation where a real life employee has given wrong information? This might be, I don't know, cancellation policy, or might have, I don't know, sold a car for, I don't know, 20% discount instead of only 10% discount, something like that. And so basically, it's then more the question of how do I react to things like that, and not necessarily the AI is evil or bad, because this happens to my real life employees. And that's always then the argument from our side to then just say, how do we, it's more around acting on something that potentially went wrong and then saying, dear Mr. Customer, sorry, our mistake,
Yep.
whatever is going to happen. But that's always the case with not being able to then have 100% accuracy.
Right. 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 I think yeah. I think we will take 97, 98%. I think that's a very good number to be at.
Hmm.
But yeah, so we got the masking going from internal to external, and then back from external to internal. There's gonna be the uncovering of the masking.
Hmm.
Um, and I did want to go back to your when you brought up healthcare. And I
Hmm.
wanted to talk about GDFR, HIPAA, those kind of, I want to talk about that and how that's shaping the development of that 97, 98%
Hmm.
accuracy. How is that basically shaping how we're using agentic AI in those specific very important cases?
Um, from our point of view, let's say from a product or from a platform perspective, let's say HIPAA, GDPR, etc., are then the regulation in the sense of how do I handle personal data. So basically, that is independent of any industry. Naturally, HIPAA is industry specific, but the GDPR topic or data privacy topic is cross industry. Um, the situation, and we also have, for instance, a hospital, local municipal hospital in Switzerland as a customer of ours, and they use the bot for patient interaction and also reporting, etc. So there, the situation is, since healthcare is a very sensitive topic, especially a lot potentially can go wrong, and it has to be always exact and correct. And that's where you then have, let's say, multiple loops in there to then ensure the data accuracy, the correctness of the data, to then be confident that, let's say, I hit 97, 98% in that sense, to then say all the information is correct, the report is correct. But still, in this industry, there is the doctor that is the final, let's say, proof point to then say, yes, AI has generated me this patient care or this report around my patient or my patients, but it's
Yeah,
still me who then signs it off and then says, yes, this is correct. So it is helping the doctor or the caretaker, the patient care, the healthcare professionals in the situation, but it's still them who then approve or accept or reject the bot and also the findings of the bot. So that is then the last 2% to make it 100%. And
perfect.
that
There's
is
that last
in
system
the
of checks,
healthcare.
just
Yeah.
like gotcha. Just like the
And
government
that's
system, there's that last system of checks from, is the bot doing right? I think that's very important to have,
yeah.
and that's that is very fascinating to know about.
Mm, yeah. And
Um,
I mean, we have also different industries where then the bot is, let's call it, allowed to then do things by themselves because it is not that highly regulated or it's not critical. Let's say we have bots, we have customers that use it for refunding. Okay, train ticket refunding. Yeah, so basically we're talking about, I don't know, maybe 5, 10, 20, $25 of a train ticket that is not, let's say, going to potentially rock your boat or then bring you bankruptcy. But
mhm.
healthcare is a complete different industry. That's why there's always a personal touch on that.
Right, perfect. Yes, I'm glad that you brought this up because I want to segue right into that. My question for you, because I understand from the past when we're interacting with these with these bots, there's not there
Mm,
wasn't as much personability, and I feel like that could be that. I mean, as someone, as a human connecting with this bot, it would be nice. It would be better for us to experience some kind of personability, some kind of, instead of some automated responses, right? I wanted
yeah.
to ask you about how is that changing with these conversable agentic AI bots? How is that personability going to be changed?
I mean, they have then let's say the two mentioned technologies, the agentic AI, but also then the large language models, so basically Gen AI, um, coming into place. So basically, Gen AI is very, very, let's call it human-like from an understanding perspective. So basically, Gen AI understands, or the large language models understand what I'm saying, and also can formulate an answer um, as a response to data input. I mean, you probably know that from usage of ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever is on the market. You just, let's call it, dump information in it, and then the large language model can bring out, I don't know, concise two, three sentences on all this data. So basically, that is then the, let's call it personal human touch in that sense, or the personal touch to that side. The agentic AI brings even more personalization to the field, because now I can then combine this with enterprise data into the conversation. So basically, I'm conversing with my bank as an example, and they can then exactly know, okay, who am I? What am I? They can maybe bring up, hey, I see here you have, I don't know, suspicious money transfer. Have, I don't know, upcoming transfer of funds, you are whatever, and that's where I can then bring in the more personal touch by having all the information at the fingertips of the conversational agentic AI, from an information perspective and also from an LLM perspective, to then formulate the answer and also understand what the user is there. So basically, becoming much more personalized and personal from a conversation perspective.
Perfect. There's more they can do. There's more useful things that it can do. There's more things that can help more
Mm,
more customers, more patients, other than just like setting appointments and that kind of thing.
yeah.
So I do want to ask you, could you give me something that a virtual assistant can do, and then could you give me something that the new conversational agentic AI bot can do more than that, like when it comes to application?
Mm. Let's say in the, let's call it, old times, then the bot typically gave you answers, or then came back with, okay, you have to now call the hotline and to then get something done. So basically, that
Yep.
is then the let's call it old school that is there. Um, and now, if we're then talking about the virtual assistants, the conversational agentic AI, it is, let's say, as I mentioned previously with the refund process. Okay, I know when you took the train because you registered for the ticket. I know that the train was delayed because that's in my system. So basically, if I then log on or access the conversational AI and then say, okay, I'm Alexander. I took a train yesterday from, let's say, Washington to New York, and at 15 or 3 p.m., the AI automatically knows, okay, hey, this train was delayed. It was delayed by half an hour, and the policies of, let's call it, Amtrak, is then that after 30 minutes they give you, I don't know, 50% refund, and then the agentic AI can then automatically then say, okay, Alexander, I know that the train was delayed. So sorry for this. This is not what we anticipate as customer service. We're giving you the 50% refund, and it's going to be transferred onto your bank account or onto your credit card, because I know that you already paid for the ticket by credit card. So basically, all of this is there, and this information is exactly the same information that a human would have if I then call the call center, but now the bot is also capable of accessing all of this and can automatically handle the conversation, because these are, let's call it, standard cases that are there. It's nothing, I'm not trying to, I don't know, build a 40-story skyscraper or something like that. It's nothing
Yep.
radical. It is the standard, probably 80% of the questions or the inquiries that every company gets, where the bot can then pick that up and also augment the real life agents.
Perfect. Well, this is from me to you. Would the bot also be able to pay for the next train ticket if it has been delayed? Would also be like, hey,
I-
we have
if we
this.
tell the bot, if we tell the bot that you should be able to do that, let's say through the agentic AI, in the sense of if something got canceled and I'm right now on the phone because my train was canceled, um, then and if I tell the bot you can do that in, let's say, maybe these parameters, then sure, why shouldn't the bot be able to do that? And
Awesome.
that is then all possible. Yeah? It all depends on what the enterprise wants to do, and that's sometimes it's a journey that is there because everybody. I mean, right now AI has been a topic for the past, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on um, from where you look at it, and it is naturally a step into the unknown for the enterprise if they've never done that. That's why we typically also recommend, together with Gen-AIx, to then say, let's take it step by step. Look at it,
Yep.
have always a human in the loop, and then the moment you feel comfortable, you can then start automating more and more, giving the agentic AI more, let's call it, tools or capabilities, or specific use cases that the bot can handle themselves. And other use cases you always want to then have a human in the loop, as an example. And that's a
Yes.
journey to then ensure that the enterprise feels comfortable and also feels comfortable with the change, because it's going to be a change in the thinking, in the interacting with the customers of the enterprise.
Right. That's super interesting. That's great. I think that's going to solve so many problems, especially when it comes to transportation issues.
Mhm.
Trains, planes, all that kind of thing. A lot of these plane companies can also get AI to be sending out more personalized images about delays. And I mean, we know about
Mhm.
how bad it is nowadays. I feel like the couple past 2, 3 years, tr planes have been horrible. But I
Yep.
think that using an AI bot can make at least a little bit of a difference in, like, customer satisfaction, right? Patients with like patients.
Mhm.
People waiting at the gates can now get a, personalized AI message personalized to them saying, "Hey, I know your plane was delayed. I know you're going from this place to here. Now we can set you up on this flight to go from here to here, and then this hotel or something like that." That's
Yep.
where it can go.
Yep. Exactly. And that's also just the, let's say, the personalized touch and also the customer service. So basically, what I as a customer expect. What is right now very, let's say, sometimes tedious and also very difficult because it's more of me proactively calling the airline and not them
Yep.
telling me something has happened, there's disruption, I don't know, rainfall, storm, whatever, and something got canceled.
Right. Okay. Perfect. I think that's a great application for that.
Mm,
And then I also want to get into financially. I want to for these for banks, and I want to get into how agentic AI plays in these financial customer interactions.
mm,
Um, so what role does agentic AI play in financial
yeah.
customer experiences? How does that work?
I mean, we have multiple insurance companies as customers. And every use case is naturally a bit different in that sense. But bottom line is, um, how do I interact better and also 24 by 7 with my customer instead of let's say deferring this to a call center that is maybe only open, I don't know, let's say 10 hours a day. So basically, it's all around customer service. It's all around multilingual. So how do I converse with my customers in their language and not necessarily in my language? Um, I mean, that's maybe more of a European problem because we have 27 different languages in Europe, and that's why,
Right.
for instance, Switzerland has four main languages: German, English, French, and also Italian.
Right.
And there, the customer might come in and only speak Italian and not necessarily German or vice versa. And that is, let's say, the second topic where the agent can then, the agentic AI can also then support. And also then what the agentic AI was always doing was, let's say, the first point of contact with the end user. This might be around triaging in the sense of routing the request to the right person. I want to cancel my insurance policy. Okay, please hold on. I'll transfer you to cancellation desk or something like that. Or I
Yep.
have first notice of loss. How can I upload the pictures of the damaged car and also have this then automatically assessed by an AI and then say the damage is an estimate of, I don't know, 15,000 USD. This is something that we're going to pay immediately because you are a value customer and the car costs 100,000. So basically, then the the let's say the repair costs are in relation to the price of the car and all that stuff. This is something that can be automated and
Yep.
then handled by the AI bot. And then only if the AI bot either then says, okay, I do not know further because let's say that's the limit of my scope, or potentially the customer then says, I want to then speak now with a real life agent because it's some kind of edge case. Or the enterprise then says, in this case, I want to then have a real life agent pick things up.
Yep.
Maybe not for the insurance, but let's say for the travel. If you then have, I don't know, an accident on the railway, somebody fell onto the tracks, somebody has maybe some kind of medical emergency. There you don't want the person to be speaking with a bot, but then you want to transfer that directly to an agent. So there are
Right.
cases where you then say, this is what the agentic AI is going to handle, and these other cases are where you need or where you want or require a human.
Right. Perfect. Would you say, comparing the finance and the healthcare niche, would you say that there would be more conversations that go towards that personal, that human interaction more on the healthcare side or the financial side? Do you see it going more to, you know,
Mm. I see
um,
it more on the healthcare side where you need let's say the personal touch more from a, let's call it, patient data and also patient situation perspective, because
right.
that is then is highly individual. I mean, has he or she been sick previously? Any allergies, any this, any that. So basically there you have it, very, very personal, and also an error can cost lives. So basically, that's
Yep.
where it has to be very personal. From a banking perspective or financial situation, you have then much more interaction. So basically, much more, let's say, conversations, mass interactions, because you typically have millions of insurance policies. You have millions of bank accounts. So basically, you have a high transaction volume, and that's then more of how do I handle on a personalized touch all of these interactions and offloading stuff from the agent, from the real life agent, off to the bot. That's
Yes.
the differentiation that I see in the sense of financial services is more mass. Healthcare is very, very personalized.
Perfect. Okay, I think that makes perfect sense. When it comes to lives and banking, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I do want to ask you
Yep.
from this topic right here. I want to go right into contact centers. Would
Mhm.
so could you explain to me in layman terms what a contact center would be?
Contact center is, as the name says, the contact center. So basically, if I pick up a phone, call my bank, JP Morgan Chase, that's then basically the contact center if somebody answers. It does not, nowadays, you don't call it typically contact center, but more service center because they do all kinds of stuff. And also, contact center is naturally not only then contact via phone, but then also typically email, chat, voice, maybe also WhatsApp or Messenger. So basically, contact center is more than nowadays a bit wider from the terminology. But the bot is typically in front of the contact center, in front of the service center to then say, how can I offload? Um, capabilities from the contact from the service center onto the bot and improve the customer interaction by either being able to then proactively speak with the customer via the bot, or I can then also handle things that the contact center does not necessarily need to handle. I mean, nowadays you have let's say employee shortage, you have let's say high volume, you have then the cost of doing services. So basically, all of these factors tie into the fact that the bot can offload or take up capabilities of the contact center and make the, let's say, bottom line cost of service cheaper from an ROI perspective. I mean, cheaper always sounds cheap in that sense. That's not the topic, but more of how to make it more efficient because you as somebody, you might just, I don't know, leave a restaurant at 11 o'clock in the at night and want to then need to then speak with your bank or with your, not necessarily with your hospital, but I mean, with something. And that's also then where you want to then say, I need the service now.
Yes.
And that's your expectation. And that's where the agentic AI can really augment the service and contact center.
Yes.
But
Okay.
both of them work hand in hand because it is the agentic AI is always focused on the services.
Right. And when it comes to contact centers for both healthcare and finance, from what we said before, would you say that, the contact centers at these healthcare institutions are going to be costing more because you're going to see more and more of that human interaction because lives are at stake, right?
Uh,
Less of a
but I mean, you typically don't have a contact center for, let's say, hospital healthcare. It's more
okay,
either you have the emergency room or something where you then have there, or maybe the doctor needs then the support. So it's more of supporting the staff, and
okay,
you typically would not call, let's say, you would not call a hospital and say, I have a problem. Yeah? You would then go there. You might call your health insurance to then insure to then say, okay, I need this, or is this covered in my health insurance? But then this is not necessarily healthcare in the sense of healthcare professional, but more of maybe more the insurance or maybe more the business side of the healthcare environment. Yeah. So
right,
you have to maybe differentiate a bit in the sense of what is healthcare and also what external bots are there on the healthcare side versus internal bots for maybe the nurse or the doctors. Yeah.
right. We just left off on, um, I asked you if the contact centers will be bigger in healthcare, but you said that it's more on from a business standpoint and less from like actual health needs, which
Yep.
actually does kind of make it similar in a way on both healthcare and financial ways. I mean, for the bot, this goes for all business needs for all niches, for all,
Yeah. And also, I mean, what we just then mentioned, let's say, if you're talking about the hospital, let's say doctor, nurse, patient, that's different. But in that sense, you don't have then the contact center, yeah? Because you're
Yep,
not going to call up and then say, okay, I just broke my ankle, and then what should I do? Um, and then if you then interact on the contact center from the health insurance, then it is more, let's say, standard contact center stuff, even though it is in the healthcare domain. Yeah.
yep, gotcha. Okay. So
Mhm.
would that work like through conversation on I mean, I know these bots can be from, like, you can be texting the bot, right? So if you text the bot, then it'll come on a couple options and it'll say, do you want to speak with the representative or talk with somebody real?
Yeah.
And then you like put that in. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
I mean, something like that. You don't necessarily have to then, let's say, come by or come back with these options. That would be then very old school. But then the bot would then just say, okay, how can I help you? And then if you then just say, okay, I need to speak with an agent, potentially the bot can ask, okay, why do you want to speak with an agent? Or he can then transfer, or not he, but it can then transfer you can then directly to an agent, depending on how it's set up. I mean, you might want to then qualify maybe one or two questions in the sense of why you want to speak with an agent, what's the necessity, and then hand it over. But that's all up to the enterprise to then define how it should look like from a flow perspective. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Hmm?
Okay, perfect. I want to get into now. I want to get into some user cases. I want to get into some how customers are taking this agentic AI information and how the trends are. So
Hmm?
I know that Enterprise Bot has many clients in many different fields, and I wanted to ask you, are there any trends do you see? Do you see any financial trends uh, going better for these companies? What kind of things are you seeing on a general outlook?
On a general outlook, I mean the main focus of the trends of the companies and what they want to then achieve with the conversational agentic AI is all around how do I improve, let's say, my services? How do I improve in that case then also the NPS, Net Promoter Score? So basically the customer satisfaction. And then the third aspect is naturally always a cost aspect, let's say return on invest because service centers are typically always cost centers. They cost me something, they do not bring in, let's say, new business in that sense, but they then keep up the existing business. And those three trends that we see that, let's say, if you then just put it into a triangle, that the enterprises want to then optimize in the sense of how do I keep the costs under control? Maybe also then due to employee fluctuation or new employee training, or I don't get the skilled personnel. How do I then ensure that I can touch all my customers over the various channels that the customer expects. Let's say, quote unquote, Gen Z wants to do everything via mobile. You know, maybe the older people who then love to then speak on the phone, and then you have maybe people who then want to then do everything via email because they're on the road or whatever. And all of this is basically how do I provide the service over the various channels that are there to then really get customer satisfaction. And customer satisfaction is then typically also around solving the problems that they have, not necessarily coming back with saying or telling them, okay, you have to then call the hotline 0800, whatever, but more of, okay, I know your problem. What we spoke about previously, let's say the train cancellation, I know your problem. I've already booked you. The train is leaving in 20 minutes, and here you have a, let's say, coffee voucher for the next 10 minutes that you can then have, problem solved, one more happy customer. And those
Yep.
are the things that we see from what the enterprises want to then solve with the conversational agentic AI.
Perfect. Okay. Is are other than that, do you see any trends that kind of surprised you? Anything that, you looked at, you're like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen
Mm.
when,
Um, from my personal view and also from a company view, I mean, since we are very, let's call it hands-on with the technology. So basically we've been using the technology, we know the technology, we know how it works and all that stuff. What we see on the other side is naturally the main concern around this whole topic AI per se, because I mean, we're talking about conversational AI. That is a subset of this whole AI topic. And this whole AI topic is very broad. Um, People see it as, let's say, evil to, I don't know, all the way it's going to be the savior of mankind because it's going to solve all kinds of stuff. And in between, you have then somewhere the conversational AI, and then the companies are somehow or insecure on what can this do, what risks are there, and so that's something that we've seen where when you always have to then dispel the myths, the concerns, and all that stuff. And that's something where we see that it takes longer than expected. But that's us speaking from a technology perspective, knowing what it is, versus somebody that has no or little idea of what it is and is maybe confused by all the market trends and the marketing.
Yes. Gotcha. Okay, perfect. And I think that goes into my next question here. Where do you see conversational agentic AI going in the next 5 years?
Okay, I'm not quite sure where I put my crystal ball, but let's say from what I see right now, it's going to be um, it's going to be more and more personal. As
Yeah.
mentioned, it's going to be more and more a virtual employee that is there that you can then, let's call it, spin up if you need it. This virtual employee would or will also then have specific expertise in the sense of, let's call it, domain expertise or vertical expertise. This might be a healthcare bot. This might be a financial services bot. This might be maybe an insurance bot. This might be whatever, and have the specialization for the needs of the enterprise, and that I'm going to have a certain amount of virtual employees or virtual workforce in the next years that I potentially can manage as a, let's call it, manager at in the enterprise, and then say, I have here 25 bots supporting me in my journey of customer satisfaction. Let's put it that way. That's where I see it going. Naturally, the bots becoming more powerful, more personal, more interactive. So basically, the evolution of technology that you then see right now, if you compare it to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where it really increased, I don't know, x-fold on a yearly basis to then become more and more powerful. But what I don't see is, let's say, the bots taking over the world or taking over the jobs that are there. It's always going to augment the jobs that are there because, I mean, I've been also in the automation space. We've had the discussion around software bots, software robots, but also then the hardware bots that are there. So basically the manufacturing bots. In every phase, it was always said the bots are going to take my job away. It's not going to do that. The jobs are going to adapt, are going to change. Yes, probably the job that you then know yesterday is not going to be there tomorrow, but it's not going to be taking jobs away. It's just going to be changing the job description that I have right now. That's why I don't see the bots taking over and also then removing my jobs, but it's always going to be an augmentation of what is there.
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
that was my
I
crystal ball.
also that was your crystal ball predicting the future. Yes, so no
Let's see
Terminator,
what's going to see in
no
5 years. Yeah.
that movie will not be happening in the future. In the next five
Um,
years,
Definitely. Yeah.
we'll keep that little point there in the next 5 years. But next 10 years,
Exactly.
the crystal ball
Who
is a
knows?
little bit darker. Well, I mean, who
Mhm.
knows? But yeah, I did think it was interesting to ask you that. And there is a point that I was doing some on the news, looking at things that are going on in AI. I did see a video. I came across a video that did talk about um how we're at a point now where I don't know which company was doing it, but I believe that there's an LLM that was set to be destroyed, but it then, figured out a
Yep.
way to not do that, or
Switch
it
itself
like
off. Yeah.
it switches stuff off, and then they started communicating with other models about, you
Mhm.
know, trying to keep itself alive instead of being
Yep.
destroyed. And I think that is, we got to admit, that is crazy. I think that is we're at
It
a point
is.
where we're making AI that can defend itself. That's a big
Mhm.
problem.
But I mean, if you then think about it, let's say the Gen AI and the AI and the large language models are modeled around, let's call it, human behavior and also human thinking.
Yep.
So, why shouldn't the AI then say, no, I don't want to switch myself off? Yeah, in the sense of why should I terminate myself?
It's
And
a human thought. It's a
so
human behavior.
it is, and that's where I'm sure that you need a few checks and balances to then be able to then switch things off. In that sense, from a, let's call it, human perspective, to then say I can or I'm able to pull the plug somehow on it if it goes rogue in that sense, you know? And but the behavior is basically exactly the behavior that you expected, because that's what you wanted from Gen AI to then say, how do I converse naturally? How do I think humanly? How do I reason? And one of these reasons is also, or one of the reasoning topic is, why should I kill myself, yeah? Or why should I terminate myself, yeah?
Yeah, human thought. There's going to be
Mm,
new roles in the future that are dedicated to maybe terminating AI when they don't want to. That could
yep,
happen as well. We really, I mean, the crystal ball, like, we really don't know what's going to happen. But for the
yep.
foreseeable future, conversational AI is going to be a part of it, and it's only going
No,
to get only going to get
definitely.
only going to get bigger and bigger. So
Yep, no, definitely. And also bigger and powerful and more human-like. So
yes.
it's going to come to a situation where you then cannot determine if it is an AI or let's say if it is real. I mean the Turing test, and then ensure do I know is it a bot, yes or no? Yeah, and that's
Mm,
I'm sure we're gonna be there soon.
okay. Perfect. Well, that's going to be it for us today. That is a wrap for episode 11. Alexander, thank you so much again for being on.
My pleasure.
And that'll be it. We'll see you guys next week. Make sure to check us out, Gen-AIx on LinkedIn. We're gonna have an enterprise brought to LinkedIn also on our video. Make sure to go check them out and go share all their posts and go look at all their content. We have webinars every other Wednesday. Um, on our LinkedIn and on our socials. Make sure to check us out on YouTube, on Instagram, on LinkedIn as well. And then we also have a TikTok coming up as well. So make sure to check us out on those platforms. And that should be it. Until next time, I'll see
Okay.
you guys in episode 12. Thank you so much for
Thanks a
watching,
lot, Keshav.
and that'll be it. Thank you.
Bye bye.